Hey Collective, welcome back. I hope you're having a good day today. So, picture this. You send an important email at work, and your boss replies with one tiny correction. What's your gut reaction? Does your heart plummet? Do you feel like a total failure? Or maybe get a flash of anger? You might just chalk it up to a bad day, but what if it's a clue to a hidden pattern that's quietly running your life? This isn't about having one bad day. This is about a fragile mindset. An underlying pattern where your self-esteem is unstable, leaving you wide open to emotional triggers and defensive habits that sabotage your own happiness and growth. You might think you're just a sensitive person, but what if these small, everyday reactions are pointing to something much deeper? A fragile mindset can keep you stuck, damage your relationships, and block your potential, all while operating in the background. It's the voice that convinces you that the world is against you, or that you're simply not good enough, turning minor setbacks into major emotional crises. But here's the good news. Seeing the pattern is the first step to breaking free. We're going to uncover 4 subtle but powerful signs a fragile mindset might be in charge, and more importantly, what you can actually do about it. The first and most common red flag of a fragile mindset is having an intense overreaction to criticism. And we're not talking about someone insulting you. We're talking about helpful, constructive feedback that lands like a personal attack. Imagine this. Your partner says, "Hey, looks like the trash didn't make it out this morning." And your immediate internal reaction is a wave of shame, or you snap back with, "Well, you forgot to do the dishes." Or at work, maybe a colleague points out a small error in a report. Instead of seeing it as helpful, you hear them calling you incompetent. For people with a fragile ego, admitting they can improve feels the same as admitting they're a complete failure. Trust me, I have 20 years experience with this exact topic and this exact mindset. So why does this happen? It often comes from having a high but unstable sense of self-worth. For example, I was once married to someone who treated me like shit, but would always look me dead in the face and say, "You don't think very highly of me, do you?" Well, no, sir. Your actions have taught me not to, and you think highly enough of yourself for the both of us. On the surface, they seem pretty confident, but that confidence is a house of cards. Any little challenge, any piece of feedback that even hints they're less than perfect, threatens to bring the whole thing crashing down. This is especially true in the bedroom, which is why so many women have to fake their orgasms. Just saying. The fragile egos of partners who would crumble or not even know what to do with that kind of unsatisfied feedback. The ego goes into overdrive, treating even minor suggestions as attacks on their very identity. For some, when our emotional brain gets triggered by what it sees as criticism, it can completely hijack our logical thinking brain, making it almost impossible not to take things personally. This isn't a choice. It's a deeply wired defense mechanism meant to protect a vulnerable sense of self. So, what's the alternative? A mindset shift. A resilient mindset doesn't mean you have to love criticism. It just means you can separate the feedback from your identity. Someone with a healthier mindset might pause, breathe, and think, "Okay, good point. I'll fix it," without it spiraling into a story about their worth. They get that a mistake is an event, not a personality trait. They see feedback not as judgment, but as data, pure information they can use to grow. Shifting from viewing criticism as a threat to seeing it as a tool is a fundamental to building real mental strength and emotional maturity. The second sign is when small, manageable feelings quickly escalate into overwhelming emotional tornadoes. A tiny flicker of worry about a deadline, doesn't just stay a flicker. It ignites into a full-blown anxiety spiral, and the whole house or office gets pulled into it. A moment of sadness after seeing a friend's happy vacation photos doesn't just pass. It mutates into a depressive loop about how your own life is falling apart and why can't you afford to live like that. This is emotional spiraling, a chain reaction where one negative thought triggers another and another and another until you're trapped in a mental whirlwind. For someone with a fragile mindset, emotions themselves can feel like the enemy. Instead of just letting a feeling like sadness or anger exist, there's a frantic need to fix it or shove it away. This habit sends a dangerous signal to your brain that these feelings are threats. And when you treat your own emotions like problems, they start to feel like them. And you lose trust in your ability to handle anything. This gets supercharged by cognitive distortions, like catastrophizing, where your mind instantly leaps to the worst case scenario, or black and white thinking, where anything than less than perfect is a catastrophe. Let's say you text a friend, and they don't reply for a few hours. A resilient mind might think they're probably just busy. A fragile mind, however, can kick off into a spiral. Did I say something wrong? Did I do something wrong? I wonder if they're mad at me. Your brain gets stuck in a loop, replaying the scenario with darker and darker interpretations, until you've completely lost touch with reality. The healthy alternative isn't to stop feeling. In fact, emotional resilience is the ability to feel an emotion without letting it take over the driver's seat. Instead of beating yourself up for feeling bad, you need to acknowledge the feeling with kindness. A resilient response to that unanswered text might sound like, okay, I feel anxious since they haven't replied. I'll go do something else to occupy my mind until they do. Become an observer of your thoughts, not a prisoner to them. By allowing the emotion to be there without judging it, you strip it of its power to spiral out of control. The third indicator is a bit of a two-sided coin. You either constantly need someone else's approval to feel okay, or you fill every single moment with busyness to avoid being alone with your own thoughts. Let's talk about reassurance seeking first. This is more than just asking for a second opinion. It's a compulsive need for others to confirm that 1, you're okay, 2, you made the right call, or 3, you're not in trouble. Do you find yourself needing to ask every single friend if you did the right thing after making big decisions? Or repeatedly asking your partner, are you sure you're not mad at me, after a disagreement? This habit comes from a deep-seated lack of trust in your own judgment. Every time you ask for reassurance, you're telling your brain, I can't handle this myself. It gives you a short-term hit of relief, but in the long run, it destroys your self-confidence and makes you dependent on others. You're essentially outsourcing your own peace of mind. The flip side of this coin is constant busyness. If the thought of a quiet evening with zero plans fills you with a sense of dread, you may be using activity as an escape. A packed schedule, an endless to-do list, mindlessly scrolling social media for hours, these are all clever defense mechanisms to avoid facing uncomfortable feelings. It's a form of emotional procrastination. By keeping your mind occupied, you never have to deal with the regret, insecurity, sadness, or fear that's waiting in the quiet moments. But newsflash, avoidance doesn't make the problem go away. It just lets those unaddressed feelings fester and grow. A resilient mindset is built on self-trust. Instead of immediately running to others, someone with a strong, resilient mindset learns to sit with the discomfort of not knowing. They make a decision and accept that it might not be perfect. They build self-esteem by keeping small promises to themselves, proving over and over that they are capable and reliable. And instead of fearing downtime or alone time, they embrace it. They understand solitude is where self-reflection happens. They actually schedule time to do nothing or be alone, which allows them to check in and finally deal with what they've been running from. This builds an inner foundation of stability so they don't need external props to feel secure. The final indicator is a tendency to be defensive and adopt a victim mentality. This is when you experience life as something that happens to you, rather than something you have a hand in creating. People with this mindset often believe others are out to get them and find it nearly impossible to take responsibility for their own circumstances. This can show up in a few ways. You probably hold on to grudges for ages, unable to let go of slights because they feel like massive injustices. You probably find yourself constantly blaming external things for your problems. Your boss is unfair. Your family doesn't get you. The world is just rigged against you. This poor me attitude protects a fragile ego. If nothing is ever your fault, you never have to face your own shortcomings. It's a way to keep your self-image clean by painting others as the bad guys. This can also look like being a sore loser or being totally unable to admit when you're wrong. A fragile ego confuses being wrong with being a failure. For instance, if you don't get a promotion or a raise, a victim mentality thinks, "My boss obviously has it out for me." A resilient mindset asks, "What skills could I work on to be a stronger candidate next time?" The first response leads to powerlessness and bitterness. The second one leads to growth and personal power. People who feel trapped by a sense of victimhood often struggle with a low self-esteem, which only feeds the cycle. A resilient mindset, on the other hand, is built on personal responsibility. Now, this doesn't mean blaming yourself for everything, especially not for real trauma or injustice. It's about focusing on what you can control. It's the ability to look at a tough situation and ask, what was my role in this? And what's one thing I can do to move forward? This is the core of a growth mindset, seeing challenges not as dead ends, but as opportunities to learn and get stronger. It's about shifting your focus from who's to blame to what can be done. By taking ownership of your actions and responses, you reclaim your power and build a sense of agency that is the ultimate antidote to a victim mentality. So friends, let's recap the 4 signs of a fragile mindset. 1. Overreacting to criticism. 2. Getting lost in emotional spirals. 3. Constantly needing reassurance or busyness. And 4. A habit of defensiveness and a victim mentality. If you saw yourself or anyone you know in any of these points, don't be discouraged. They're not character flaws. They're learned habits and defense mechanisms, often built to protect you from past hurts. Recognizing them isn't a reason for shame, it's an opportunity for growth. A fragile mindset isn't a life sentence, it's a starting point. The path to a stronger, more resilient mindset is a journey of small, intentional choices made every day. It's learning to pause before you react. It's treating yourself with kindness when you feel low. It's building trust in your own judgment and taking responsibility for your own happiness. It's about choosing hope, not as a passive wish, but as an active practice that pushes you forward. Start with one tiny change. The next time you get feedback, take a deep breath before you say anything. The next time you feel a worry spiral starting, just name the feeling without judging it. Each small act of resilience builds on the last, strengthening your mind over time. You have the power to change these patterns and build a life that isn't controlled by fear, but guided by your own strength and self-awareness. Thanks for watching. And if you learned something about yourself or someone else you know today, please like and subscribe. And until next time, friends, keep healing. See ya.